Final Stop Brazil, Book 2, Life After Hell, Chapter 15, Corrupt German Consulate. 9 days to Christmas. I was more depressed than before, because everything turned back to the negative. All my hopes were destroyed, and I had no perspective. Once more, the thoughts of suicide returned. With Tati and Sheila, the familiar relationship not only cooled down, we annoyed each other so much that I knew for sure our time was over. Like purely coincidentally, Donna Mara, a feisty black woman over 60, approached me one morning to offer me moving into her CO. Remarkable that she had spoken earlier with Sheila and Eunice. Obviously, they had already made plans behind my back to get rid of me. This hurt me very much. I requested a little while to think about it, but basically I knew I had to take the opportunity, because the COs were the best cells. They were on the ground floor, much larger than the other cells, with hot showers and toilets in a separate room. No more waiting to take a shower, and I would not be disturbed when I was using the toilet. Even a bed was offered to me, but this I had already several times. Donna Mara was anything but likable to me, but in the end it didn't matter with whom one stayed. There were problems everywhere after some time. The fact that she offered me a place in her cell wasn't because she liked me so much, but for the simple reason that my predecessor took her TV, of course, when she was released, and now the ladies needed someone with a TV. Eunice advised me to accept the offer. I expressed my hope that the relationship between me, Tati, and Sheila would relax again if I moved out and the two were undisturbed again. I really liked both of them and wanted no more war. Eunice assured me that we would all stay friends and nothing would change that. I had to wait somewhat, since the move to a CO was a little complicated. The cells were provided only for the sick prisoners. However, since I belonged to the very depressed ones with the tranquilizers, there was nothing in the way. The Sunday before, Eunice's brother had not come. Eunice sat waiting outside and was very depressed. "What's going on? Why your brother has not come?" I asked her. "I don't know. I'm pissed off. I go upstairs." She said this and left me standing there. I wondered if it was my fault, perhaps. Did I hurt him in his honor? How sensitive Brazilian could be I knew very well of Jeff. My guilt, however, waned with every Sunday Elias didn't turn up anymore. Even after I wrote him a letter, asking him to come and visit us. Eunice was very concerned, especially since her 16-year-old son was arrested after he had shot someone. She urgently needed to talk with her brother, but he never came back. Why? This question I asked myself again and again. I had my chance and wasted it with my arrogance. It was obvious to be feared that something had happened to him, or he was arrested. Such a thing was common in the favelas, the outskirts of Sao Paulo. Julia had been against Eunice's brother from the start. Repeatedly, she and Gilma had talked to me that I should be careful. The entire family of Eunice was involved in criminal activity. But had I any choice? Elias is not a criminal. He's working regularly, is legally divorced, showing responsibility towards the two sons. Why Eunice is here, I don't know and don't want to know. I defended my project. With each day, I was getting more nervous, because I heard neither of the consulate nor Wesley, and nothing of my mother. After 3 weeks, Wesley had me called to the front. Julia also happened to be there, because she worked in the administration. Wesley confirmed a payment of 300 reais he had received a week earlier, and another one of 200 reais the day before. The consulate hadn't even made the bother of transferring my existing balance of 200 reais to his account before. On the contrary, They had delayed it, intentionally. Fact was that Wesley told me it was too late for Agassiz, as the sentence was already decided, but just not yet officially announced. Stubborn, I insisted on the slightest chance to get back my freedom. Hence wrestling, Wesley advised me not to apply for Agassiz. Now, I would only lose my money for nothing if I should in the meantime receive the sentence. Desperate, I turned to Julia. Tell me what to do. Julia was also at loss. I suddenly realized that Sturm had got what he wanted with his delay. It was obviously difficult for Julia to answer me. Leave it, Rita. Now Wesley commented, it is better if I leave the money on the account and use it for immediate appeal against the sentence when it comes out. Resigned, I followed Wesley's advice. Since the topic of marriage was important, I wanted to know of Wesley how my chances for a residence in Brazil were after marriage. I'm not certain, but I think quite well. I will make myself smart in this regard, he promised me. Insecure, I repeated what this Mr. Sturm and Mr. Waldman had told me, that I would be expelled despite marriage. That this was not the case, Wesley could confirm. Each case is individual and is assessed accordingly. Now Julia intervened again, actually gushing out of her that she did not at all agree with my choice. About as much maternal care had to laugh even the usually serious Wesley. But he had no response for Julia's concern. Was it any wonder? To provide a bridegroom free house certainly wasn't his area of expertise. However, I tried to collect my thoughts. The hope for an early release I could now bury once and for all. However, I forced myself to think positively. Even the stupid Sturm had said that it would have a positive impact on my sentence that Chris was arrested, so it would not even be all too high. The judges appeared to make the sentence generally quite mild, because it rained around me this time with sentences in between 1 year and 8 months and 3 years, including semi-aberto. Perhaps Wesley would not even have to appeal. Julia also advised me to wait and see and stay calm. Nevertheless, I had a raging temper on this puke Sturm. Everything, absolutely everything, he had thwarted. It had started with his refusal to have my case given up to the Spanish consulate. Spain had now worked out, just as Portugal and the UK, an extradition treaty with Brazil. Also Spanish prisoners had unprecedented help from their consulate and were taken care of very well. They didn't even need to work because they had enough money available for their purchases. Then his delayed contact to the German consulate in Malaga, the prevention of my personal aid, not to mention his very humiliating behavior, and now this. Why did this man hate me so much that he simply forgot to do neutrally his job? Admittedly, I never took any of his shit and his arrogance. I complained about him, but was that not my right? I had never made a secret of my opposition to Germans, but this also was a different story, and therefore I told him repeatedly to give my case to the Spanish consulate, what he simply refused. A few days later, I received in a gradually way of a confidential source the answer to my questions. I was told that the exorbitant fee for Brazilian standards of 4,000 euro, which had an equivalent of about 11,000 reais, Mrs. Bishop had asked for, was going partly in the pockets of Mr. Consul Sturm, who recommended this lawyer so warmly. It was totally clear to me now, until the day that Mr. Sturm held my alleged bank statement in his hands. I didn't really have no problems with him, but when he assumed that I had lied by claiming that I had money on my Spanish account, it was over with his kindness, and even worse, when I sent Mrs. Bishop in the desert, because she must have been probably able up to that time and to convince him that money was available. I wrote him a letter dripping full of irony and sarcasm, of course, between the lines without becoming too straight, because I still needed this bandit. However, I added a big appreciation for the delayed payment which had cost me my freedom. Also, I wanted information about required documents for our marriage. With this, I demonstrated that I continued to pursue my intentions, and he would not stop me from doing so. The new cell was moderately okay concerning the space, but that was already it. They were all a bit crazy here. Donna Mara was a Bible fanatic, completely neurotic. Fatima stupid as a piece of bread, but still nice. She gave up her bed for me and washed my clothes for free. And Donna Selina permanently washed, cleaned, and polished the cell. If Fatima or I wiped the floor, she would do it again afterwards. But worst off was Donna Mara, with her moods and her commanding. I consoled myself with the hope that I would probably be released soon. But when she began to spread lies about me and talked at work about what I had purchased, I had enough, and it came to the first crash. Then it was somewhat okay for a little while. What saddened me was that Sheila hardly ever spoke to me again, and Eunice did the same. One more human disappointment.